advice would you give to somebody in business today who maybe isn't aware of sanctions, even if they're criminals, right? Because I think criminals need to be aware of this as well, and people who are doing the money laundering. What advice, and I'm going to go to Nicola because he's smiling, what advice would you give to them today in the economy or economics that we're living in, with the regulations, etc.? What should they be thinking about?
I will make a difference between sanctions, which are clearly a tool of foreign policy, national security. You ask a question about the US, if it's going to be any change now due to the upcoming election. Well, actually, we have not seen differences between Trump and Biden administration in the posture towards Iran. So there might be some continuity for some, of the geopolitical decisions, situations. For probably others we might see change if there is going to be, a switch from the Democratic to the Republican. But anyway, I think this will continue. Sanctions will continue. What I see, and we hear a lot about the strategic competition between the US and China. This is going to have a major impact on the global supply chain, and probably companies should get ready. And where I see one of the let's say challenges companies are finding, especially Western companies, is that based on the investigative journalists, a significant portion of foreign sourced battlefield components, and when I talk about components, I'm thinking about critical components, items that can be used for military purposes, so dual use goods or microchips, things like this, comes from outsourced production in countries with weaker export controls, typically China. So when you say Texas Instrument, for instance, so that's the issue. Western tech companies or any US companies, European companies, they tend to outsource to third countries. They have less control. And that's an issue because the item gets re-exported and maybe goes to a third country like Armenia, Kyrgyzstan, which are the neighboring country with Russia, and that's a way of circumventing sanctions. It's very difficult. And we know that US sanctions are extraterritorial. So if the item, even though it's manufactured in Asia or in Europe, contains US software, technology, or any US content, a license for export must be requested, and in some cases is rejected if it's denied is an entity on the denied entity list of the Department of Commerce. Now, when it comes to fighting money laundering, so criminals, if I just look at the example of criminals in Europe, now what the law enforcement agencies have been able to seize, to confiscate as, the illicit assets, we talk about 1%, which is being calculated by Europol around 4 billion, something approximately 4 billion euros, which is almost nothing. 99% is still out there that need to be confiscated, which is quite impressive. But we see in Europe, at least the European Commission has set a roadmap how to fight organized crime and drug trafficking, because crime is becoming more of a network. The individuals don't operate in an isolated fashion, but they operate it through network crime as a service, and often forming alliances with other criminal organizations, mafia type of organizations. They're increasing and strengthening their investigative tools. They're investing in technology, artificial intelligence. They're investing in better data to perform, investigation. So I see that the posture is there, especially because right now we know most of the member states are running on very high budget deficit, and all of this makes sense. I think it will be harder for them in the future.